Hello, thank you very much. And hello, everybody. It's been really lovely to meet you virtually. As Parusha said, I'm Caroline McShane and I run a social media agency called Social Honeycomb. And we really are all about helping you gain confidence in your social media. We will help you to learn all about the different platforms. We will look at working with you on a one-to-one basis to develop your social media strategy. But more importantly, we will help you with your content. And hence, this is why this presentation has come about, because now more than ever, it is essential that your content that you're putting out on your social channels is right for the current environment, but also right for your business. To give you an example, there was a particular piece of content that went out on the last bank holiday weekend via a company in Gloucestershire, which was all about where to go and drink over the bank holiday weekends with your mates and what beers you could be drinking, which obviously was pre-scheduled, but nobody had gone back and looked at that content, and so it was really totally the wrong content, totally the wrong tone, and they had quite a big backlash as a result of it. So it really is important that you think about the type of content that you're putting together, that it is meaningful to you as a business and product and brand, but is also very apt for your clients, because that is ultimately how you're going to be attracting people to you. So without further ado, let's get started. So within this, we will be looking at the types of content that there are. And when I say types, I often refer to these as sort of content buckets, which are ideas of the individual different types of content that you will be putting out on your channels. We'll look at the media types. So this is very much sort of how you're going to attract people to your post in the first place. So we'll be looking at photographs and videos and things like that. We'll be looking at content ideas and sources. So where are you going to find your inspiration for this content? Where's that going to come from? Because I don't know about you, but I will often sit here if I haven't planned my content and I haven't worked with my content types and think, oh, what am I supposed to put out? I've got 15 minutes to get a post out. I don't know what I'm supposed to be putting out. I can't think of anything. And then it's all rushed. And I'm sure it looks obvious to my readers and things that it is rushed. So we'll look at where you can get ideas and how you can start to plan. We'll look at the tools that you can use to help you with that content. And then we'll look at the trends for 2020, 2021 that will, again, sort of have a bearing on the type of content that you put out over the coming 6 months that's really left of the year so far. It's flown by. So just first off, have a think about the type of content that you think is out there, and have a think about the content that you respond best to, I suppose, and what it is that will engage you with a post and will get you to sort of think, oh, I love that type of post, or I love that content. I'm going to go back and try and find more from this particular account or from this type of business. And there are 6 types of content. So bear in mind the types of content that you think are interesting as we go and talk through these next 6. So moving forward, the first type of content that we're going to talk about is educational content. This isn't as in being back at school. It is more about content that is helpful content that is going to teach your audience something. They're going to learn something new from it. It's going to help them solve a problem that they maybe didn't know that they had. And it's going to give them practical tips so that they can go away from your post and think, do you know what, I've learned something today, or I didn't know that was the answer to such and such, I must go and put that into practice. Or, gosh, I didn't know that was available, I'm now going to go and purchase that, or I'm going to find out more through this particular company. So if you look on the left hand side here, you'll see that this is a post that I put out on Instagram not long ago, and it was 5 things to avoid, and it was about how to put your content out there, but how to put it out well, and things not to do. And posts that say things to avoid, things not to do, tend to work very, very well, as opposed to 5 things that you should do. So this was just very much about how you wouldn't bury the lead. So you'd have a very simple, straightforward first line on your post, that you would not sort of start it with something like a happy Monday or a throwback Thursday. You know, by all means mention that lower down in the post, but you want to be putting something like, you know, are you afraid of social media? Do you lack confidence in social media? Are you looking for health and well-being events for your clients? That type of post needs to be there, so people have a quick glance at it. Everybody's time sensitive at the moment, and before, and will continue to be, but so people are going to look at it and think, do you know what, actually that's exactly me. You know, and don't use formal styles and essay styles of tone. Use whatever suits your business best, etc. But that is the type of educational content. One of the companies I really admire with regards to their social media is Innocent Drinks. And they don't just talk about what's in their smoothies, they don't just talk about how healthy they are, but they look at things that will help the general population that are looking at their posts. And they think of fun ways in which to do it. So for example, this post here, they put out when the clocks went back, and it was just a bit of a comedy thing, but a lot of people suddenly went, oh, I forgot about that, and so it was their call to action. So try and educate wherever you can, education is one of those types of content that you can put out, and is a really powerful way of engaging with your audience. The second type of content is inspire. So we're looking at inspirational content, sharing things that will really inspire your audience. And it's content that makes your audience want to achieve more or want to follow you more because you've given them that lift up. You know, there's a particular paddleboard yoga person that I follow who is really inspiring, and you know, I love seeing her posts. Her posts are always very jolly. It's all very beautiful scenery that she's where she is. She has some great quotes and things like that, and so, you know, I feel inspired by what she does, and I want to read the next thing that she's going to put out, and as a result I will then go and you know, either recommend her to people, or I will use her services as and when I need to. And it doesn't have to be original content. It can be content that you get from somewhere else, that you've shared from other sources. So you don't have to just put out your own content. You can look to bring in content from other people, but do bear in mind copyright issues and things like that, because what you don't want to do is then get into hot water with people saying, hang on, you didn't get any permission. So I would either always ask the person, if you're, you know, please may I share that image, or I love this image, can I share it, or that quote, or I would at the very least mention them within your post, so that, you know, you can at least give it a nod to where you've got that from. And this is very much called curated content as opposed to created content. But, you know, look at quotes as well. They're very good. And sometimes if you can't think of an image to put out there, it's quite good, just, you know, a bit like I have here on the left-hand side, are you changing? It's again, a nice way of getting something out, something that's going to inspire your audience. And all it takes is just a few words on a post. So, you know, you're not limited to quotes. Things like interiors and cars are often do very inspirational posts. But also, you know, have a look at those types of posts and the businesses and brands that really feel that inspire you, because they will help give you some new ideas, and if it's not a case of using some of their content, it will very much help your sort of creative thoughts to generate more content. Now, I mentioned the Otto House, which is for interiors, and I mentioned the White Details, which is for cars. These are their posts. I'm not a car person, so personally that doesn't do anything for me, but I do quite like other people's very pretty interiors. Mine aren't quite so pretty, but it's about giving people that feel good feeling and getting them to want to achieve that, or giving them ideas. So moving on to number 3, in terms of the content, we're looking at entertain. So it doesn't all have to be serious. You know, you want your audience to feel educated, inspired, but also entertained, so that, you know, they like what they see. You know, you can lighten their mood. You know, it's often quite hard in times like these when everybody is being very serious, especially when at the beginning of lockdown and things. You have to be careful with your tone. But now people are sort of more into what's happening. At the beginning, there were some amazing bits of content coming through that sort of made us all laugh and things like that. But look at sort of how you can make your audience laugh or smile. And you can mix it up with jokes or graphs or memes. This particular post I quite like. I saw it with Boss Babe on Instagram, and that is very much me. I sit down at my desk and I think, right, I've got to be more productive. Oh, I wonder how I can be productive. Oh, I'll look at this and I'll look at that and I'll look at that. Oh, crikey, I've only got 5 minutes left. I need to crack on. So, that really hit home with me. It made me laugh. And you'll find that amusing posts do really well with your audience. So it is quite nice to have that mix. So that you can be educational, you can be inspiring, but then you also need to be entertaining. And the whole point of having these sort of 6 content types is that you almost sort of, if you like, form content buckets. And that they are sort of ingrained in your mind, so that when you're out and about, you're reading magazines, you're looking at online content, you're looking at other people's social media, you're watching the news, whatever it happens to be, when certain topics come through, you can be thinking, oh, that could go in my entertain bucket, or that could go in my inspire bucket. And that's a great way of you having this sort of ongoing library of content that means you're not having to sit there and scratch your head every time you go to post because you're trying to think of something. But you've got a nice big pool of things in which to post, which will make your life a lot easier and will save you so much time. So moving on to number 4, it's celebrate. Everybody likes to feel good vibes. So, there is nothing better than having your own content recommended by somebody else. So why not recommend other people's content? Recently, Instagram and Facebook have brought in a new aspect, which they're calling shop local, local business. Support local business, and basically what that is about is trying to develop this community. And for me, social media is all about community. It's all about networking to a degree, but supporting your local community, engaging with that local community, or a community anyway. It could be an international community, but it is somebody who's kind of got your back, somebody's going to recommend you, somebody that's going to comment on what you're doing. So when they brought in this support local business, I put out a post with 6 or 7 different businesses that I work with and have come across recently, and just used a sticker and added the name. And it was phenomenal response, because not only did it mean that I was sharing with my followers other businesses that I highly rated, and they then went across and had a look, but it also meant that those other businesses got a shout out. They felt the love from me, and then 9 times out of 10 people will then want to reciprocate, and so they will then share something which will then tell their followers about you. So it really is, celebrate other businesses, and celebrate when you have great testimonials or people say good things about you, because if you don't, no one else is going to. And actually, a lot of people will buy from you, and you will go up in their estimation if they see that there is a testimonial on your social media. Those with names or businesses attached to them do tend to do better than those without. But it's just it's a verification that you do what you say you do. Other posts that work really well with celebrate are roundup posts. So my top 5 business books, my top 5 personal podcasts, the apps that I use to run my business, things like that. Everybody loves to know what it is that you use to save you time, educate yourself, inspire yourself, etc. So do make sure that you put those on as well. And as I say, being tagged in posts and tagging other businesses in posts is a great way just to feel the love. What I advise my clients against is putting out a post and tagging 15 different local businesses or different businesses in it on a regular basis, because that starts to feel a bit like you're being spammed all the time. There are features available on social media that mean you can go in and set parameters so people can't do that, but actually it's a much nicer thing to have the odd tag in your post than tagging all these people at the same time, because that's going to get more ill will being felt by people than getting people to feel the love. So, so look at celebrating your business, other people's business, and the things that you do within your business. The fifth type of content is discuss. So, ask questions. If you ask a question of your audience, then that is encouraging them to engage. If you put something out there that is, this is what we did today, this is how we've done it, this is what we've achieved, end of story, you're not asking anybody to discuss anything. If you're putting a post out that's saying, this is what we've done today, this is what we've achieved, do you find, what's your biggest problem in your day-to-day business? Or have you tried this approach? What are your thoughts on it? Anything like that. Asking questions is encouraging people to respond. A lot of the time people won't necessarily respond, but you're giving them the option. And you will then find that once people do start to respond, then you can start to build that conversation, that sort of relationship with them through conversation. And it is brilliant for the algorithms of the social media platforms, because as far as they're concerned, there is a conversation going on there. There is engagement. That means there must be something quite interesting being said, and therefore the algorithm will promote you that little bit higher. And you'll get more reach for your posts. So, build out your community and ask them what their opinion is. I've had some great feedback in terms of workshops that I've been running and masterclasses I've been running, where I've sort of gone out to the audience and said, I'm thinking about putting on a Pinterest masterclass, or I'm thinking about putting on a LinkedIn masterclass. Who would be interested? Would anybody be interested? And if I don't get a particularly positive response, I'm not going to do it. But when I do get a positive response, brilliant. And then what I make sure I do is I go back to those people who'd said, oh yes, I'd be really interested, or yes, that sounds like a great idea, or etc. And I'll go back to them and then say, hey, guess what? Thanks very much for recommending that I did this. This is what I'm doing. If you'd like to join me, then do. So again, try and refer back to them if applicable. But everybody loves to feel that, or most people love to feel that they are part of your decision making. They love to be a part of their business. They love to know what's going on. They love to know you and who you are. So by discussing certain activities and items, it really helps to develop that communication. And always make sure that you've got that call of action or call to action on your posts. So, for example, on the left here, things have sort of moved forward now. We can actually swim in lakes, but when I posted this particular post, we still couldn't swim open water swimming, and I have a big passion for my open water swimming. But this was an image from last year. I'd just done a race, and it was gorgeous. So by putting on the call to action, are you swimming yet, and giving people the option yes or no, you're starting to engage people, and people are then starting to feel that they're part of a community. So sort of add a call to action, whether it's tag a friend, click on a link, refer to my bio, whatever that happens to be, but give them something to do at the end of the post, so that then they are more likely to do it, as opposed to just putting it out there and not asking somebody to engage with you. And then finally, the sixth type of content, or sort of content bucket, content pillar, is selling. Now, it's obviously a very strange world out there at the moment. Some people are selling, some people aren't, some people don't want anybody anywhere near them that's selling. So this is where I say, just be mindful of who your audience is and what they want to see and hear from you. So I was talking, I was on a panel with somebody the other day. She runs a very successful shoe shop. It's all about them promoting their shoes, the new ranges, things like that. But as the pandemic kicked in, she took everything offline from a sales perspective, and she went on about on social media and started talking about her local community and how they were supporting it and what they were trying to do and achieve and things like that. So again, you need to post sympathetically at the moment. You need to think, does my audience actually want to hear about this? But if you are going to sell, and ultimately that's what you need to be doing in some of your posts on social media, publish sort of sales related content that is subtle. It's not sort of in your face. But don't be tempted to say, here you go, here's a freebie, come and join me for this, and here's a freebie for that. And in these times, why don't we go online and we'll do a free workshop, and we'll do, there are definitely times when that works, but mix it up with the free stuff, but also the paid for stuff, because otherwise what's going to happen is you're going to attract this amazing audience on social media, they're all going to want to be free, 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 free. And then when you turn around and say, well, actually, you know, now I think this would be the next best step for you. Have you thought about doing such and such or purchasing such and such? They're all going to suddenly go, oh my goodness, it's not free. We don't come to you because we want to buy. We just come to you because it's free. So you need to mix it up between the free stuff and the giveaway stuff, but also the more focused sort of sales stuff as well. Sales posts will always reflect a dip in the engagement, and they do that historically. They always have done that, but don't be put off by that. It is to be expected, but I always recommend that sort of 75% of your content that you put out there, if not maybe 80, is within the other pillars that we talked about, the other 5, and that sort of 20-25% is sales, depending upon the environment that you're in. So you know, by mixing up all that content, you are enabling yourself to pull from different ideas and put those in these content types or content buckets, so that you're developing that library. And that is really, really important. And it is very important that you have that sort of mixture, so that your clients aren't just feeling like they're being broadcast to all the time. And this is us, this is a new product, this is a new idea, new venture, this is what we've been doing, etc. People want to feel like you understand them, that you know what they want to see. They want to be educated, they want to be entertained, celebrated, inspired. They want to have discussions with you, and then they will allow you to sell to them. So moving on to the next side of things, looking at content media. So the way in which you are going to attract them to your social media. Now, the first thing really is, and very traditional social media sort of media, is photographs, so images. So most posts have now got images attached. Initially, social media images, people used to put out posts and never attach an image with them. And very quickly people realized that actually, in order to get any kind of engagement, people need to be attracted to the post, and people were just scrolling through, and they would just scroll on past that image, past that post, because it didn't have an image attached. So then people started to add images. That's great, but what you need to be doing is mixing it up. So written text is a good one. So that's those quotes, sort of latest statistics, that type of thing. Video is incredibly powerful. Everybody loves to be able to sit and watch video. If you are putting up video, I suggest that you put up the words as well with it, subtitles, because an awful lot of people are sat at their desks when they are back in the office, or they're lying in bed in the middle of the night looking at their social media. They want to be able to understand what's being said, but without necessarily hearing it. So the text going across the screen as well is a really good idea. Video is also a great way of sort of differentiating yourself from others. It's a good way because people get to know who you are, you're on screen, or your business. But it's also, again, with most social media posts going out with photographs or sort of written text, something static, video comes along, and the algorithm thinks, oh, this is something interesting. People are going to sit and actually watch the video, so they're going to be on that post for a slightly longer time. So again, it will promote the reach of your post above those that you would necessarily put out with a photograph. Memes are very good. So these are the sort of slightly amusing, or sometimes very amusing pictures that are taken and slightly edited and photoshopped, etc., for certain reasons. Graphs and diagrams, that's another good way of getting facts and things out there. Infographics, similar to graphs and diagrams, but a bit more, I suppose, a bit more informal. And screenshots, you know, if an article's in the paper or a magazine or something like that, and you're unable to get hold of a digital version, just take a screenshot of it. If you see something, somebody else's post, but you can't download it or whatever, take a screenshot of it and use that for your content. That is a great way of showing, the real live, this is what has just been printed in the public domain, etc. And UGC, now UGC is user generated content, which basically means you are getting your users and your audience to generate content on your behalf. So it could be for example, you're out, let's say you're on a paddleboard, you take a lovely picture, you've got the brand of the paddleboard in front of you or is in the picture. You can then tag that company within that picture, and then the company will be sort of notified that there is this post that has this particular picture, and then they can use that picture image within their own social media. So you're sort of encouraging your audience to go out and take photos of your products when they arrive, or when they've been to your venue, to take images of them sat around the table as they're having a great meal, or as there's an event that you're running. Take images of them with this amazing bar or these cocktails that we're making or whatever. And then you're encouraging them to post those by tagging you in, because not only are their own audience seeing what you're doing, you can then share it and your audience can see that other people are supporting you and sort of giving you the tick in the box. So, mix up the types of content that you're using, the media you're using for the content. Look at photos, they are the easiest thing. Look at written text, video, memes, graphs, infographics, screenshots, and user-generated content, as I've mentioned. And then make sure that you have the right size image for the platform that you're using. It's very frustrating, but for something like Twitter, you need longer and shorter images, whereas for Instagram, you need squarer images. So there are lots of different sort of photo editing apps out there, and we'll talk about a couple of them on the next slide, also next couple of slides. But make sure that you have the right images there, because basically, although when you open the post, you will see this great picture, when you're scrolling through feeds, what you might do, whilst you might have a great picture of your team and they're all there, they've won an award, isn't it fantastic? You then put it onto something like Twitter, and while people are scrolling, all they'll see is maybe the middle, their stomachs, that type of area. And people won't bother with that. Whereas if they see the whole image, they're much more likely to stop and go in and have a look at your post. So again, just look at the sizings that are required on the types of media that you're putting out. So in terms of content ideas, where are you going to get these ideas from? If it's not going to come through to you naturally, you need to think of new places in which to find it. The best and the most simple way is to look at other accounts, other people in your industry, other people who you admire, other people whose social media you can't get enough of. You want to follow them. It doesn't need to be in your industry. It could be nothing related to what you do whatsoever. But look at other accounts and get ideas from there. Don't copy, because people will get very sick and tired if you're constantly copying what they're doing. But get the inspiration. And, it may be a case, one of the things that I do is I'll look at other social media experts who I really think are absolutely nailing it. And I will sort of write a list of, oh, that was a really great post. Oh, I love that. And I won't put out the same sort of content then, but it'll be great for next month. And I'm not directly copying, but I'm going to amend it to my own needs. But it's a great idea. So look at other accounts. There are a number of content calendars available online. So just literally Google content calendar for such and such an industry, or just general content calendars. And these are everything from identifying when Mental Health Awareness Week is, when International Coffee Day is, when Child Protection Week is, things like that. I would always double check on another content calendar, because some of them tend to be a bit slapdash. They just copy from one to the next, and it's not always the same days. And don't always use it religiously, because if you are a health and well-being business and you do all about nutritional smoothies and things like that, you're not going to be shouting about International Coffee Day, because that's not your audience. But what you are going to be looking for is other types of related awareness days. So they're a really good way of inspiring you to have another idea. So and if you're really stuck for ideas, then it is a great way of getting a little bit more inspiration of how you can post and find some sort of relevance to it. But make sure you can tie it into your business and how relevant it is to that. Look at the national and regional events. So if you're a particular sporting brand, look at whether it's Wimbledon, or if you're, let's say, a fruit grower or somebody like that, you know, start talking about how many strawberries are used at Wimbledon, or a vineyard, you know, how many bottles of champagne are sold, or glasses of wine, etc. So look at sort of the regional events and things that are being talked about in the press and online, and find a link to what it is that you do. And look at international events, you know, so whether it's G7 summit and you are a very environmentally friendly business, and start talking about that, and talk about, you know, why you either agree with what's coming out of there or why you don't agree with what's coming out of there. You know, try and link it into something specific, but something that connects you with your business. And again, back to this user generated content. You know, there was one particular account, somebody came up with a particular hashtag, and they were all about venues and events. And we basically said, you know, whenever you go to any of these venues, use this particular hashtag and I will reshare it on my social media. And of course, so people were dying to do that. They wanted to get in front of all their followers. So whenever they went to a new event, they'd put hashtag whatever it was, and she'd pick it up and then she'd share it. So again, you're relying on other people to provide you with that content. And it's a great way of getting good content that you don't actually have to go and think about. Somebody else is doing the thinking for you. So in terms of then looking at how are we going to get all this out, you know, you might be sitting there thinking that's great, but I've got all this time. I'm trying to run my business. I'm trying to work in my business and on my business. I haven't got huge amounts of time for social media. These are a number of tools that will really help you to save time and make your social media look a little bit more slick if that's what you want. So I tend to schedule most of my posts. I work with the clients that I work with. I will schedule their posts as well. You do need to be mindful, as I mentioned right at the beginning, that if you're scheduling too far in advance, that you're constantly keeping in check with what has been scheduled versus what's going on in the world, etc. But you know, I use a content scheduling tool called Content Cal, which is brilliant. I can schedule to multiple accounts. My clients can feed into the posts and say whether they like them or they'd like something else, etc. If you're a big Instagram fan and you use Instagram a lot, Planoly is a great way of a great tool to use. You can look at your grid and you can move posts around and make it look sort of and feel better if that's what is important. Buffer is a very good tool as well. In terms of images, there are all sorts of different image apps, but the main ones that I tend to use are Canva and Over, and I use those for sizing my images, but also putting sort of text over images, putting words on screens and things like that, changing colors, that type of thing. Clips, again, is another good one. You can add lots of different photos and that will then put them out as a video. And Giphy is also, obviously we all know what Giphy is these days, but if you wanted to put something out that was just a bit of an amusement and you're having a good day or a bad day or something like that and wanted to show some emotion, it's a great tool to use. In terms of video, which is so important these days, I use a thing called InShot, which is a great way of editing your video. You can put music on top of it, you can cut it, you can add stills to various different parts of it. It really is a great way of looking very professional without having to spend any money or very much money. And then TikTok, I mean, everybody knows TikTok. It is a great social media platform, but it is also, you don't need to use it as a social media platform. You can use it to download video to or take video from, and its editing features are very, very good. So so those are tools for you to have a look at, have a play around with. I'd love to know if anybody has any tools that they use that they think they want to share with everybody. Write this in the chat. But yes, they basically help save me time when I'm posting my own social media. And then finally, looking at the trends for the rest of the year and for next year. You know, I've mentioned video quite a bit. It will be more video. So for those of you that don't like being seen on screen and don't like getting in front of a camera, then now is the time to be practicing and getting yourself to feel more confident. People don't care these days whether it's a really formal video or not. It's a bit like Zoom calls, you know. over a year ago, the poor chap, the scientist chap that had a Zoom call with the BBC interviewing chap, child came in, all hell broke loose, wife came in to grab the child, it hit the headlines, how embarrassing, etc. People don't care now what's going on in the background. In fact, I think I had a child disappear through the back of one of this just now. The same is said with video. It is no longer about the formality of it. It's no longer about having to be professional. People buy from people, and if you can get on video and you can talk and convince people of your passion for what it is you're selling or what it is you're doing, they are much more likely to build a rapport and a relationship with you. So have a go on video. There are a number of tools out there as well that will help you in terms of scrolling through the text that you're trying to say and talk about when you're making the videos, and put them out. And just if you don't like them, you can always delete them, but do have a go and help do that. The next trend is building community. Now, this always slightly makes me chuckle, because my whole reason for getting into social media was the fact that you could build these amazing communities around you to help you with your business, help promote it, help support you, excuse me, and help spread the word. So now that everybody's saying, oh yes, social media is good for building community and that's going to be the next trend, I think is slightly ironic, because to me, that's what it should have always been around. But it is much more of a focus on building the community, building that supportive group around you, and for you to engage with others as well as them engage with you. So it's not just about you building a community around you, but it's about you providing others with a community around them. That brings me on to the next thing, which is its engagement. So it's about having conversations. It's about talking. It's not just about going through and going like. Some of the platforms are removing the number of likes function. So although you as a business can see how many people like your post, it's no longer the vanity thing of, oh, that account's got 1,000 likes, or it's got 200 likes, or oh, that must have been unpopular, it's only got 5. A lot of people can't see the number of likes that you come through. So it's about the engagement. So engage with people on direct messenger, engage with people on stories, engage with people on their posts. It is that whole thing of building the community. Increased use of stories. So, a lot of the platforms, they've now got these things called stories. Initially it was Snapchat, I think it was, that brought it through first of all. Now Instagram have stories, Facebook now have stories, and LinkedIn are due to bring in stories at some point over the coming years. In fact, I think they've just rolled it out to Brazil. And stories are a great way of showing snippets from behind the scenes. So, it's whether it's a meeting table that you've just, or a meeting room that you've just set up, this is what's happening with such and such a client, or it could be the ingredients that are going into your amazing flapjacks or brownies. It's again inviting people into behind the scene. It's inviting them in to say, look what we do, this is us, and for them to buy into you as well. And they're really quick. It's a quick photo. You can do some fun things with them. You can add some stickers. You can add some sort of animations and things like that. You can tag people. But I really would recommend that you utilize stories if you can. And we're back to the good old UGC, user-generated content. That is a big thing for the coming years. It's all about trying to get that community to start promoting you. So, ask people to share, ask people what their thoughts are, ask them what their favorite, take a picture of our product while you're on holiday or whatever it happens to be. So try and get people to buy in and engage with you. So in terms of recap, make sure you choose your content pillars, your content types, and it will make your life so much easier when you're going about your everyday business. Look at the types of media that are at your disposal. So look at whether it's video or images, because that's what's ultimately going to attract them to then the types of content that you're putting out there. And don't just create content, curate it. Look at others, where you can borrow content from, where you can share other people's content and other people's findings. Use the tools that are going to help you save money and save time. But most importantly, ensure that the content you're putting out there is relevant, either relevant to your business or relevant to the environment in which you are in or the times at which you find yourself in. So don't just put content out there for the sake of putting content out there. Make sure it's relevant and that it's what your audience want to read. So so yes, everyone can contribute to the content that you're putting out. It's not just down to you. I often go to companies and I'm working with companies, and the marketing person or whoever it is that's been tasked with the social media is sitting there tearing their hair out saying, I just don't have enough time to come up with the ideas. I just, everybody's out doing things, but nobody's really ever got any suggestions. Well, do you know what? Anybody in your business can help you generate content, whether it's a sales team that are out and about and traveling. They can be taking pictures of sales meetings, whether it's a team that are doing recce's of venues and things like that. Take some images, get some ideas that can go out on story. This is where we were today. This is the sort of thing we're looking at. Whether it is somebody that is greatly enjoying your food and things like that, or going off and looking at competitors, or going into cafes to take images of interiors and things like that. Everybody in your business should be helping you contribute to the content, and that will then increase your library and ultimately become that much easier to post great content to an engaged audience, who will then increase the reach of your business. So yes, that is how to create great, awesome content.
Oh, Caroline, thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. I've obviously spent quite a bit of time with you looking at our social media and how to improve it. And so I feel like this was a really good recap. And when I started out on how do we use social media to actually engage with our audience, these are some of the kind of tips and tricks that I just hadn't even realized. So thank you very, very much for sharing those indeed. If anyone's got any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. I have got a couple that have come in already. Obviously, this is a time when we're all trying to get to grips with how we can use the power of social media to actually engage that audience online. And you talked a bit about creating communities and creating groups and all of those sorts of things. And you talked about using videos and photos and all of the different things that we can be doing. Obviously, we're operating in different platforms depending on what our business is, or whether we're an individual. What would you say about kind of use the tone of voice that you use and on the different platforms? Because I know lots of comments come quite often from people saying that they're really scared of LinkedIn and how formal it is. And then with Instagram, they're used to using that for chatting with mates and friends. And actually, if you're a business, is it okay to be a bit more casual? And so if you're kind of wanting to represent your brand in the best way, how can you kind of get the best tone of voice when you're using the different platforms?
Since I first started working on social media, things have very much changed, especially with LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, as you say, was very much the formal, very stuffy type of social media platform. And I think if you are a law firm and your clients are all going to be looking for somebody that is very professional, very upstanding, that side of things, then you are going to automatically adopt a slightly more formal tone. But if you're a type of business and you're a law firm and you don't want to be seen as stuffy or as serious, there is nothing to stop you from being more light-hearted, more, it's that whole thing about entertain. You can still be relatively formal, but if you're entertaining and you're inspiring and you're educating your audience as opposed to boring them, then you can find that natural mix. LinkedIn is a slightly more formal platform that is changing. They're bringing in stories, as I mentioned. They've just recently brought in a thing where you can put in polls, things like that. There's a lot of change going on, and with society changing so much as it is, and with the interaction with, or sort of implementation of TikTok and things like that, social media is becoming a lot less formal. So it really depends on who your audience is. If your audience want you to be very professional and talking very seriously, then by all means adopt that tone. But if they're not, then you don't need to worry about that. Just be yourself. It is more about being yourself and talking as you are as a business than it is trying to adopt a tone from somewhere else.
I think that's really true and really relevant, and particularly as we've been living very much in a virtual world for the last few months, authenticity is something that is now, I think, really important to people. We've all had this kind of sneak preview into everybody's homes and everybody's lives, and we feel like we know people probably a bit better than perhaps we did before. You know, where perhaps you would meet people formally in a business environment, you'd meet them at an office, or you'd meet them in a restaurant, or you know, a hotel or something like that. Whereas actually now we're meeting people in each other's homes. So I think you're absolutely right in terms of what you say about authenticity as well. When we talk about getting that reach and getting out to people, we've spoken in the past about algorithms and how they work. Can you just kind of talk a little bit about that in terms of people can quite often lose heart if they're just starting out on their social media journey and they're like, oh, I'm not getting enough likes, or I'm not getting enough reshares or anything like that. But it does take time with algorithms as well. And it's always not just about your content, it's about other people's content as well, which is what you alluded to in the past.
Yes, the algorithms are often sort of bandied about there as, oh, it's the algorithm and you've got to do X, Y, and Z to be nice to the algorithm, if you like. You have to sort of court the algorithm, etc. And there is a degree of truth in that. But I think more importantly, it is, you know, you would not walk into a pub and say hello to somebody that you, and then you saw them the next, you know, they said hello to you, you then saw them the next day, you then, sorry, let me get back. My children are messing around in a paddling pool behind me, and I'm really sorry, but they're making a lot of noise. So
don't worry, I'm just waiting for mine to come in as well. They've been in and out while you've been speaking, and I've sort of said 10 minutes, so don't worry.
But yes, if you wanted to build a relationship with somebody and you bumped into them in the pub, you would walk up and you'd say hello, maybe first off. You would then go back in again. When you went back in again, if they were there again, you'd have another conversation with them, maybe a little bit longer, and then maybe you'd offer them a drink, that sort of thing. You'd start to build a relationship. Likewise on social media, if you want to build a relationship, or somebody wants to build a relationship with you and you don't respond, they're not going to bother. You know, they might try 2 or 3 times. If you get no response, if you get no sort of interaction or engagement, you're not going to try and build on that. So the algorithm is all about trying to get people engaged and responding. They are written in such a way, we believe, that you know, let's say Facebook has 10 features. It wants you to be able to use as many of those features as possible. So it's going to give you little tick boxes. But ultimately, I wouldn't get worried about the algorithm or bogged down with the algorithm. Ultimately, what you want to be doing is producing engaging content that people are going to want to come back to time and time again. Yes, you can tweak different things. You can add more than one photo. You can do video. You can, you know, that type of thing, which supposedly will get you raised up further in the algorithm. But it is more about having that engaging content that people actually want to come back to. They want to share it. They want to talk about it. They want to invite their friends to view it. So, so yes, don't worry about the algorithm so much. It's more about having the engaging content.
Yeah, that's really true. I really like the pub analogy, and I do think that's very true, that quite often you can expect that, oh, I want to put something out there and what I'm putting out there is so great and I'm really, you know, it's really beneficial to people. But actually it does take a while for people to warm up, to get to know you, to find you, and to engage and connect with you. So I think, yes, you're absolutely right in everything that you say there. And I really do like the pub analogy as well. I'm conscious of time, and that everybody probably needs to get on to the next thing. So I know, Caroline, you're very, very happy for people to connect with you. They can connect with you on LinkedIn. They can find you at Social Honeycomb if they use the Google search engine. So please do connect with Caroline if you'd like to know more. Caroline also runs more in-depth workshops as well for anybody who does want to take their social media to the next level. So please do get in touch with her. But thank you so much for joining us today, everybody, for giving up your time. We have recorded this session, so we will be sharing that with you in a couple of days' time, and it will be available on our platforms as well. So thank you, Caroline, for joining us. Always a pleasure to sit and talk to you about social media, and thank you, everyone else.
Pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye.